The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And this is Andy, and you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The absolute worst! So we meet on this Monday in a similar spot to where we were last Monday.
No, not exactly, Zach, because this time it was done the right way.
Oh, yes, of course. If there was a team that was going to get coronavirus the right way and teach us all how to handle it, it would be our beloved St. Louis Cardinals. It just ran through Matt, Keith, and Colin like it was nothing.
Well, fortunately for September call-up Doug, he wasn't there yet, so he'll be okay.
No, now it was
other dog,
Steve.
Other dog is in trouble, I think.
Jeez. Well, see, like this one bothered me more than the Marlins one, because the Marlins one is like, okay, it's the Marlins and it's one team, maybe they can control it. But now that this is a completely separate incident that isn't linked to whatever the hell the Marlins were doing, right? Which has been proven to be that the Marlins were just being
idiots.
Stupid, pure idiots, and going out in Atlanta when they were there for an exhibition game. The fact that it's now in a different division that's unrelated, that has me a little more concerned for baseball's fate, just because if we're getting, isolated incidents in different, I can't call them bubbles because they're not, but you know what I mean, where it's like, if all the Eastern teams started to get it, okay, you understand why. Maybe the West and the Central could just play on. But, like, if the East gets it, it's its own thing. If the Central gets it, it's its own issue to deal with. Because now, like, it's not even the player's health necessarily that's when we're talking about if the season can go forward. It's now that the Cardinals had to cancel these games with the Brewers over the weekend, and now they're canceling a 4-game set with the Tigers. And so now those teams all have less games, and maybe they have to make those up. Like as I mentioned to you guys today, if the Cardinals were to get all their games in, they'd have to play 55 games in 49 days. And so, however many doubleheaders that counts for.
There's no, the part of this goes back to lack of planning, like a real lack of planning. And I don't know if you want to put that on Manfred or whomever, or the players or the team, states, whatever.
Manfred would tell you that the players need to be better. It's not his fault.
Right. And I
agree with that.
Yeah, there is truth to that. I mean, essentially, when a bunch of Cardinals go and staff go out to a casino, then and
is that what happened?
Yeah, I guess.
In both the cases of the Cardinals and the Marlins, it's been reported that they basically just ignored all of the rules that they were supposed to abide by and just started going out on the town, like irregardless of anything.
Yeah, I mean that at some point. You can plan and plan and plan, and that, from the entire country all the way down to a baseball team. But at some point, you have to rely on people having personal responsibility. And as we're seeing with these two teams, you can't always rely on that. And here we are. So
what confuses me is why there's not a thing in place for you can't make these games up. So does, like, if the Cardinals and Tigers series is canceled because the Cardinals predominantly how the ones with the virus problems, then you forfeit those games to the Tigers. I mean, I don't feel like there's if the Tigers and Cardinals both have coronavirus, according to the Hoyle Book of Coronavirus in Professional Sports,
right?
You forfeit.
I think where the problem comes in with that is because the play is limited to the divisions, right? If you're not to say that the Detroit Tigers were going to do anything this year, but if you're the Twins. And you're like, well, what the hell? This team in the other Central Division just gave 4 wins to a team in our division. What the hell is that? So I can see why they don't want to deal with that.
Plus, you'd have to decide, like, okay, in the case with the Marlins and the Cardinals, it's pretty easy. It's their fault. But what if you get a team that it's not their fault, that it's just one of those things where you can't trace it directly to players being idiots? Well, it's not fair. This was what I talked about from the day one when I started talking about this. I said, what happens when teams start going down with this thing? And now we're seeing it. And I don't think we're done yet. I think it's going to happen in the NHL and the NBA too. Bubble or not, this is a virus. It's the size of like something that takes an atomic microscope just to see it. It can get through anything, and it will.
I mean, the NHL and the NBA seem to be doing fine. Like
since they've gotten to their bubbles, there's been no positive tests over the last
so far,
or whatever it's been.
So far, I'm just saying that
the Major League Baseball couldn't get through a weekend without tests popping up. Both the bubble leagues have managed to do it so far. Now, even you look at the NFL with all the training camps, and there's guys testing positive all the time, and you have more and more guys opting out in the NFL now too. Mm-hmm. So it's again small sample size, and you're right, it could change, but as of right now, it looks like the bubbles work, and it looks like the league that kind of just said, no, we're just going to go through with it. We're going to try to do our best, but leave it up to the players. Well, it's as I was watching Around the Horn on ESPN today, and I think it was Mina Kimes brought up that the baseball is essentially like a microcosm of society at large right now in this country, right? Where like 90% of the league can do its job, but if there's a 10% that doesn't, like there is in society, where like, you know, majority of people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there's the few that aren't, then that compromises the whole enterprise, right?
Well, the question though, and this can go to the larger issue here, what's the goal?
Yeah.
And not just from finishing a season. I mean, what's the goal with this virus? I don't understand what the goal is. Like, you know, like, yeah, what's the goal? Well, it started out as 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're 5 months into that now. What's the goal?
I thought you were asking what the virus's goal was, and I'm like, it's
the virus's goal is to kill as many people as possible. We know that. I'm asking what our response is.
Well, yeah, the debate, like all the sports, is frivolous. You know, there's no need for it at all. And I mean,
that's not what I'm saying though. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, and I'd like to look at the percentage of players in the league versus number of people that are involved in baseball, and how that percentage matches up to the general population and infection rate. Because it might just simply be nothing more than like, look, these are just people that we pay a lot of attention to, and their infection rate's exactly the same as, say, the city of Omaha, home of the Beef, by the way, greatest football team in the world. But I guess the thing is, I don't know, you know, it's been, like 13 players on both teams so far, or 13 people, not players, but
the Cardinals was 7 players and 6 staff.
6 staff.
And then the Marlins was 14 players.
Oh, geez.
And three or four staff.
Yeah.
Like there was a quote from Don Mattingly today that some of the players that have been called up to the Marlins are literally guys he's never met before. He's never seen these guys in person.
I thought you were going to say the guys are calling up are going, yeah, no thanks. I mean, we'll stay here, no problem.
That's sort of what Jonas Cespedes did over the weekend, right? Where it was just like,
yeah.
Well, I think his thing, it sounds like he didn't, or his agent didn't think that he was going to hit his bonus marks this year because of the shortened season and a myriad of other factors. So he just up and left the team hotel before the game and didn't tell anybody.
You know, I read the article about him, and again, I have nothing to base this on other than my own gut feeling, but my impression, just from the way it read, was he was like, yeah, you know what? If I got to be locked up in the hotel the whole time, I don't want to do this, which is fine. Yeah. I understand that. But yeah, this is where we, and again, you know, leave it to baseball to trip over its own feet right out of the gate, which is exactly what it's done. And now we're in the second week. Is this the second week of the season?
Second week, yep.
And we've had our second team go down. Second full week, and we've had our second team go down. So I don't know.
We're getting lucky in some regards. Like the Phillies, who played the Marlins, had nothing. They got away.
Right.
No, they got like 2. They had a coach and a clubhouse staffer, right? I think that was it. Two, but yeah.
I mean, they're clear to start.
Are they sure that they got that from the Marlins? So, see, that's where this thing gets really weird, because there's really no way to know. I mean, everybody says tracing. Well, that's great, except that the growth of the virus as it spreads out is exponential. So if you trace one person and then that person meets 20 people and the other person, you know what I mean? And it's like all of a sudden you have no idea.
Well, the tracing for like a Major League Baseball player or staff is fairly, it doesn't need to take much. Essentially, you could just trace it back to, like, who did you go out with on Wednesday? Okay, you went out with these 3 guys on Wednesday. Where did you go? Oh, a club. Okay, you went to a club. You got it from somewhere in the club. These 2 are at best idiots. And I mean, there's no bad,
Well, yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that we're basically we're out in the fucking weeds on this thing. Nobody knows what the hell's going on, and the idea that you can play a baseball season, even a 60-game one, and not have this thing affect you the way they set it up is insane. And we all saw it coming. We all knew this was going to happen. Maybe MLB or maybe the NHL and NBA get lucky and it doesn't happen to them. But wait till football starts. We're going to see the same thing all over again, because I just don't see the NFL doing the bubble thing. Where are they going to put it? Where are they going to have all – or are they?
The bubble is certainly not going to happen with the NFL. But the thing with baseball, I think their goal is just to finish the season. And I think what they would view as a victory, even if it's all a bunch of nobodies that came in to fill the rosters, what they would view as a victory is if nobody died. That's
yeah.
I mean, that's honestly the minimum that baseball wants. Rob Manfred doesn't want to say at the end of the 2020 season, nobody's dead. Like that.
We don't have a body count, and that's a victory.
I mean, I don't say that. I mean, it is fun to say.
I know.
It's like the scene from Major League. This guy here is dead. It's like he literally is. Like, he got coronavirus and he died. But in this case, nobody died yet. But the time, is that what it's going to take, though? That's kind of the unsaid question.
Here's what's going to happen with this is that the players are going to be fine. I will bet my last dollar right now that not one of them dies from this. But what's going to happen, and it may already happen, is that you're going to, how some of these coaches are like 130 fucking years old on these teams. And what's going to happen is some young buck idiot shortstop from the Marlins is going to make Don Zimmer sick, and he's going to die. And that's what's going to happen. That's how you're going to get your death.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I think it's been very clear in the way that Rob Manfred's handled this and how the rest of the league has, that even if they get to the end of the season and some teams did play the full 60 and some played 45, that they're just gonna go forward with it and go based on winning percentage, which will be fair to some, unfair to others. But like we said in all these things, all of this comes with a big asterisk. So I don't. When it gets to the end of the year, I don't know if I really care whether or not it's been evenly played in terms of number of games and all that. Just if you feel you want to keep doing this and you keep pushing through with it, okay, fine. But we also have the right as fans and as observers of the sport to be like, this is all ridiculous and it doesn't actually count.
Two things on this. First off, if they're going to base it on winning percentage, if I'm the Baltimore Orioles, I go, okay, we're 10-4, fucking go out and get infected right now. Because that's like a whatever and we'll just take off the rest of the season, and then we get to play.
Maybe I would think that if that was the case, they'd have to set a minimum of
Okay, but what I'm saying is, what if you get one of these idiot teams like the Orioles, or I don't even know who's good or bad this year, but let's just use the Orioles as an example because they're generally bad.
If you coronavirus this season, you are disqualified from the playoffs. How about that?
Okay,
you intentionally contract.
If you do it on purpose, it doesn't count.
Yeah, you just get the Yankees going down to Miami. Hey,
but
cough on me right now. Just do it.
Right. We don't, we can go down the rabbit hole if you want, but you can see how screwed up this can get really quick. Yeah. And it's just a disaster. It's
like I said, if all this has an asterisk. So there's 100 whatabouts and what ifs you can ask about any of this. But it's like, if you want to do it. Fine. Go with it. I will accept anything that you want to do for this season only. And just under the assumption that this is all fucked. Right?
Oh yeah, if there was a slogan for the season, I think that would be it. This is all Fox for everybody.
Yeah,
Bingo.
100%. But that's what I mean. And it's not. If you make the decision you want to go for it and you're committed to it, okay, fine, whatever. I'm as long as the one thing that I would say, and I think that's what all the players for the most part in all these sports had said going into it, do as much as you can to keep players safe. And if a guy gets it and that means that they're going to be out for the rest of the season, fine. Like it just, you have to make sure that you do as much as you can to keep these guys safe because they are putting themselves out there. They don't have to. Like we said, sports it's a luxury. It's extra.
Right.
So
but if you do put yourself out there, don't be an idiot about it.
Yeah.
I understand that this thing is what it is, but it doesn't take. I mean, it's not like it takes a Herculean effort to not catch it.
I mean, all you need
it's
to do
some pretty
is
easy precautions to take care of it.
All you need to do is just don't do what the Marlins and the Cardinals did.
Right.
It's like the Marlins. They were saying they're going out to clubs and they were going out on the town. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, if you're gonna play in this season, then what you do is you go to like the hotel, you go to the stadium, you go back to the hotel, you go to the airport, you go to the hotel. Like, you follow a strict regimen. And I understand if people are like, oh, if that's how it's going to be, I don't want to do it, then don't do it. But if you're going to do it, this is what you got to do to be safe.
Right.
I mean, this is really difficult to. It's one thing to just take a town and try to, or a state. It's another thing to have a bunch of young, mostly wealthy athletes who aren't. They're probably not likely to err on the side of caution when it comes to this because that's just their style or whatever. But then there's the idea of I am young and I'm rich, and when I go to this town, I'm going to light the town up or whatever. It's almost like this speaks to the larger societal issue where it's like, I'm not going to give a shit about this until it personally affects me.
Well, it's if you wanna light the town up any other year, fucking go for it. I don't give a shit. But when there's a fucking plague out there, maybe exercise a base level of caution.
Yeah, but again, until it personally affects them, they're not going to care because they want to do. And this is not speaking for everybody. There's plenty of teams. I know, like the Cubs, for example, have been completely locked down, 0 test positive. They're like a model for the league in that regard. Their bullpen is not, but their team as a COVID protected.
I would say the same about the Angels. They've been good about it. They just can't throw the damn thing.
They just suck.
No, they're scoring a lot of runs. They just can't throw the damn ball.
That's important in baseball, being able to throw the ball.
The virus aside, you can't really do that. I guess everything is going to be about the virus. But did you guys watch some of the NBA to see the fake fans, like the digital fans, the NBA Jam '95 fans, on the big?
Oh my God, no, that had to be great.
It's surreal. I was looking at them earlier. I'll see if I can find a clip for you. But essentially, there's pixelated fans moving around with fake fan noise, defense, stuff like that.
Like NBA Jam, it's great.
I love.
If they're gonna do fake fans, it's got to be from in the old days, like an old video game, what generation was NBA Jam? Was that Nintendo, Sega?
Sega, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Every one of these leagues, that's using fan noise is using the video game program to use the noise. And it's the modern stuff. I know MLB is using the show for their noise, and inexplicably Fox kept trying to do the CGI fans again this weekend, and it didn't work. Because they were doing one of the Fox games was Angels Astros, and the Angels.
Oh my God, this is awesome, Andy! Andy just said
right? Isn't this the greatest?
Incredible, man.
And I mean, you wouldn't know, you you obviously know if you look for more than 2 seconds, but
you're just glancing at it, it's fine.
I've loved what the NBA's done because those are actual fans watching the game live on their webcams.
Yeah,
and just the Chris Bosh has gotten in there. Paul Pierce was there for the Celtics game. That's fun. I really like that. I think the NBA is doing a great job with that. As I said, the Fox MLB broadcast, CGI fans are very bad. Like as I was saying, at the Angel game, there's tarps on a bunch of the seats, but they still put the CGI fans on top of the tarps, so it doesn't.
Why would you? If you're gonna okay, and I get it that not all 30 major league teams are going to want to invest in this, but if you're a big market team like the Angels or the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever, why not invest in chroma key colored tarps so that it would make it really easy to put fans in there?
Because they're selling ads.
Oh, you put ads up too.
I thought the hockey tarps looked pretty decent. Like,
I really like what the NHL has done.
Tonight's attendance.
Well, that was good. Yeah. The NHL attendance bug's great. And like the NHL with the tarps and the big like scaffolding and the stage and all the video elements, they've made it look really cool. Like it is some sort of special event that they're holding. Because really, when you look at it, does that not look any different than it does when you're watching a Winter Classic or something like that? Where there's no fans
I thought you were going to say,
yards of the field.
I thought you were going to say, does it look any different than a Phoenix Coyotes game?
Not wrong. The Coyotes and Panthers should be thriving.
Yeah. Coyotes and Panthers are like, this is our time.
Hell, the Coyotes won their opener, so
yeah.
they're doing fine. Every league's doing it different. I think of the things that have worked, I like the cardboard fans in baseball. I don't like the CGI fans in baseball. I have liked this NHL presentation, and the NBA one is still weird to me. I like the virtual fans, but the whole thing still feels like I'm watching a stage play on TV, where there's three sides and then you're the fourth wall looking into the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, with hockey, I feel like it's done a little better, I think, because there's a little bit, like some of these camera angles are a little bit, I don't know how new they are necessarily, but they feel like it's a little bit more lifted and up over the ice, more of like a video game angle, so you can kind of see the other side of the rink that you don't normally see. Whereas, like you said, the NBA is so confined that having the fans via Zoom or whatever they're using to put on those LEDs, it provides some really nice contrast that helps feel like there's depth. And the NHL, meanwhile, has a row of seats, but then the drop down LEDs. So again, you get some semblance of depth. Like you're not just inside of this like strange confined area that it actually kind of is.
Yeah, and they've had a couple times where they've done the same thing as the NBA, where they get some fans watching live on webcams for like the big NBC games on the weekend, which was funny because they did it for Bruins Flyers, and they had all these Flyer fans set up, and they were going to showcase them, and then the Bruins scored, so you saw in live time all these people just be like, "Oh, fucking Boston," so that was kind of fun. And then they also have all these pre-recorded videos and messages that they've been using for let's go Flames or goal celebrations or whatever.
The screens alongside of the on the ice, or not on the ice but in the stands and stuff, those are real, right? They're not virtual.
Those are physical LED.
That must have cost a fortune for these teams to do all this.
It probably wasn't as bad as you'd think. I think that those screens are generally getting cheaper to make.
Well, you see, the two host teams though are Toronto and Edmonton, and they actually have money. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep thinking that they're like in every arena. You're right. It's just those two.
Two
Never mind. Yeah, never mind. I was off there for a second. But yeah, I think the NHL looks good. Basketball does too. I guess with baseball it'd be tougher to do because you've got so many more seats to fill and all that, but.
Plus, with baseball, there's the inherent. Obviously, there's a home competitive advantage for some, the type of ice or how the ice stays over the course of a game, stuff like that. Or certain old NBA courts can get kind of warped and janky. But generally, basketball and hockey have the same. It's all the same. Whereas with baseball, it's like some places have a giant weird ass wall, or they have a really shallow right field.
Or they have a stupid flagpole on the fucking field.
Not anymore. They got rid of that.
Thankfully.
And the hill, too. There's no hill anymore either. Come on. Was that not just the we could do this because we can? Move
that had no practical purpose.
No, that was just there.
Yeah, I don't know. envisioning with that. All I did when I saw the hill was like my calves hurt. Because I feel like somebody. Imagine you're running full speed and then like you step awkwardly onto a damn hill trying to catch a fly ball. Like were there ever like highlights where somebody
running into the flagpole or something?
Or just, like,
no, because you had to hit the ball a really long way to get it out there. It was like 450 feet, I think, or something like that. It was, or maybe I'm thinking of a different stadium. Maybe that was the Polo Grounds. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe somebody did. I'm running into the flagpole. That would be the greatest highlight ever. So if it happened, we would know about it, I think.
I just remember that it was like a real interesting case to have when you would play in Houston in video games, because like there was this fucking flagpole and like the ball physics got a bit wonky anytime it like got anywhere near it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what else is interesting while we're talking about interesting stuff, Mike? The Columbus Blue Jackets happen to have a 1-0 lead over your Maple Leafs.
Yeah, they do.
And y'all didn't even score a goal on us. I'm just saying. So when's game 2? Tomorrow at 4?
Yeah,
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check that out.
I will say that as weird as it is, and as much as we all acknowledge, like, this is still weird to have sports back, I have thoroughly enjoyed having hockey on literally all day for 3 days straight now.
Oh yeah, it's been great.
Like, it's just one game after another. Like today, you don't have to change the channel. You just turn on NBCSN as soon as the first game starts, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific, and then it's on until the end of the night.
Because there's no fans, so you don't have to worry about fans coming in and out, and you don't have. All you need to do is you just wait for one game to end, Zamboni the ice, and you're good to go for the next game.
I think they said they need an hour. Usually it's a 3-hour process to like set up the ice, but they've cut it down to an hour. Because the other thing they're doing is,
what the fuck are they take? Look, I've played hockey. I've played hockey most of my life, and I can tell you, it does not take an hour to Zamboni the ice.
No, but
they wouldn't do it between periods.
The other thing they're doing is they have the boards, and all the boards have the home team board ads on them, so they have to take off all those stickers.
Well, that
and replace
seems
them.
like it's just dumb. Like,
it seems like it's a lot of extra work, yeah. And then they're also doing the process of disinfecting the benches and whatever, or the glass bubble that the on ice analyst is in Toronto.
Oh, you mean the Pope car? Yeah.
Yeah, the literal bubble inside the bubble.
Which, by the way, I'm going back to work in 3 weeks.
Oh boy.
I'm going to insist that I'm only going back if I get like a plexiglass cube, like
dude, just buy yourself a hazmat suit.
That I need like an intercom to speak to the class with.
No, Mike, go to the school board, take a picture of Brian Boucher, and just say this. I need this.
This is what I want.
This glass case of emotion.
This is what I want.
Have they decided, Mike? Are you going to be in the building now, or do you know yet?
Get this joyous bullshit. So Hillsborough County was like, well, what do we do? Like they pushed the first day back 2 weeks, like that was going to make a difference. And then they were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And they decided that they're going to do they're going to do both. So school will be open. There will be in-person classes. I'm going back in. But parents who want to opt for their kids to have e-learning instead can do that. The result is now that I need to record a bunch of lectures for the e-learning portal and have online assignments put up, in addition to preparing in-person lectures and in-person assignments.
Well, do you get paid extra for that?
No.
Well, see, no, I'd have a problem.
On top of that, it's kind of a problem because from a teaching perspective, you want everyone to get the same information. And like, I can lecture at a video camera and then I can lecture at like a webcam and then upload that to the website. That's fine. But the problem that happens is when, like, if I'm just doing that, any kid who's learning from home is just going to get that lecture. But say, I'm giving that lecture that, a day in class, and some other kid has a question and asks me that question, and then I, clarify that, I answer that. That's information that the kid at home doesn't get. So it's a mess.
So it sounds like everything else, basically, it's half pregnant.
Yeah.
They don't know what they want to do.
Because the idea was like, do we start with, do we put people back in the classroom, or do we get people, or do we just start with e-learning? And those were the only two options, and everyone who had the power to make a decision went, why not both? Which doesn't actually fix the problem. But whatever. Well,
good luck.
Thank you.
Just do what you got to do to keep those bastards away from you. That's all I can tell you.
I'm gonna fucking demand the plexiglass bubble. That's what I'm gonna do.
There you go. Like I said, get a hazmat suit with speakers.
The cone of silence.
I did see one that was kind of interesting. I've been trying to find a picture of it. It's it looks like a clear plastic backpack that a teacher is wearing over their head to where their arms just stick out. It looks like a 1940s robot from a movie or something that has like the 2B arms coming out. And it's frankly quite embarrassing, but it also just seems like I get it. I understand what they're trying to do. But the thing is though, like, it's all bad. And I'm not looking forward to it. That's absolutely not what I'm doing. But I think that everyone is collectively kind of dreading the obvious bad thing happening, which is like it's already happening in Georgia, where they had 2 instances of trying to do everything by the book and having a bunch of kids get together for like a camp, and I think a bunch of school employees recently too. But it's like numbers in the hundreds to where it's just not going to work. And so when they put kids back in school here in Illinois in probably, I don't know, a week, by the end of the month, hundreds, it will be at least hundreds. And
I saw Indiana had like a couple teachers and a couple students already on like the first week too.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Where it's like our school is under, basically we're like, as soon as there's a single infection reported, like we're all going to e-learning, like full stop.
That's better than California's doing.
You know what? Then don't bother, because you're going to get an infection. Yeah. It's going to happen. There's no way around it. And it's the same with every other school in the country. You've either see that we've reached a crossroads with this thing, because look, the vaccine, all right, maybe not by the end of the year, but I'll ask you guys, I know where I stand on this. Are you willing to take a vaccine that's been tested for 3 months? I'm not sure I am.
Well, they're testing it longer than that, but
yeah, I mean, it's
much longer than that?
Well, they've already done the first 2 stages of the test, and now they're doing the wider 3rd stage of the test.
I understand that, but Zach, the virus has only been months. Oh, okay, I'll just point out the fastest vaccine to ever hit the market was Ebola. It took 5 years. That's the record. That's the so my point is that I think at some point we've got to. I don't know what we've got to do here, but there's just. We're not gonna stay home until it goes away. It's there. It's not going anywhere. There may be a vaccine. I mean, if the testing goes well, great. If it doesn't, then what? I guess my point is I don't know. I mean, I'm not positing an answer one way or the other. I'm just going, what the fuck are we doing?
I mean,
I think part of the problem is there's solutions that have been put in place to mitigate this as much as they can. And there's still
it hasn't worked.
Well, but beyond that, there's still large swaths of people that just don't want to follow the stupid rules because it's.
I don't know. I would say large swaths. I mean, I don't know about where you are, but around here, it's 90-10. But it's like we said about baseball, that 10% can cause a lot of problems.
That's what I mean.
I've got a buddy of mine, one of my best friends for my whole life. Okay, he turned 60 the other day, and he had a birthday party. His wife organized. This is what cracked me up about it. His wife is one of these people that's on here like, if you don't wear a mask, you're killing people. If you don't do this, blah, 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 just like right down the line, like she's like working for the CDC. And despite all of that, has a party and invites 100 fucking people. It's like, do you not get how this works?
Well, here, at least here in particular, there are at least a very vocal group of parents that are just so damn determined that they want to send their kids back to school, and they want to send their kids back without masks and all that. And it's just like, I know we've heard your thought on the mask, but like,
no, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying I was going to say, I wonder if it's because they're really the mask. Whatever, do what you want. My question is, do they really want their kids to go back to school, or do they need free daycare? Is the question I was going to ask.
Well, that's just as much of a problem too.
Right.
Well, the problem is it's not necessarily free. It's not even necessarily just daycare. Like, all right, I teach high school. Like, you know, traditionally speaking, that's not.
Yeah, you want to let a bunch of 15-year-olds do whatever they want for
12 months. I guess when I hear about parents in school, I always think of, like, around here we've got in my neighborhood. Because of the age group of the neighborhood, most of the kids are very young in our neighborhood. So I always think of them as like being 6 or 7, 8 years old. I'm not thinking of high school kids when I'm talking about this. Yeah. So if I gave the impression that high school is daycare, that's not what I meant.
Well, no, but still, that it's the same problem with high schoolers too. Where like, yes, parents don't necessarily have to make sure that these kids eat during the day, but if you're a high school kid and you can do your homework whenever you want to, you're either not going to do it and you're going to spend the middle of your day, doing God knows what, out on the street somewhere.
If you're anything like I was when I was a junior in high school, you're going to be smoking weed. That's what you're going to be doing.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And there's going to be kids that are going to find a lot more than weed out there.
I just, my point and my conclusion throughout all this has been that we are just hopelessly fucked. And the sooner you come to terms with that, better off you're going to be.
I mean, hopelessly fucked seems. I'm not quite ready to go hopelessly fucked. I'd say this is pretty fucked up, but I would not go quite hopelessly fucked.
But to answer your question from a while back, though, Greg, would I take this vaccine? Would I have this vaccine? You know what? I'm going to tell you right now, I would.
I probably would too. I look. If you told me if I went outside and stood on my head for 2 hours, it would make this thing go away, I would hang up and go stand on my head for 2 hours. I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. Believe me, I get a flu shot every year. I'm not one of those people.
No. I'm just saying. Like, I understand the risks involved in taking a vaccine that hasn't gone through a rigorous test. But like, I am in a profession where I'm going to be in close proximity to children for a large portion of my day. And children, under the best of circumstances, are basically petri dishes. Yeah.
Yes, I agree completely.
And now, you're taking that and you're having you're putting a pandemic on top of that. And it's like, dude, you gave me a vaccine and it's like, look, there's a 70% chance this is going to work. And like a 30% chance that your eyeballs are going to melt out. Like
I was going to say grow a third arm, but
I'd roll that. I'd roll those dice because it's like, what's the alternative? Is that I go into work in an environment where infection from this fucking plague is incredibly likely. Like, no, like this I'm that's kind of where I'm at this point. On top of that, I've got to look forward to teaching with a mask on, and I've got to look forward to making sure that classrooms of teenagers keep their masks on. So that's going to be fun.
Well, none of it's going to be fun. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, that's another just fucking thing where I'm just kind of. I know. That's just another thing where I'm just very like pessimistic about this whole thing because the people who make these decisions are like, oh yeah, we can have kids back in the classroom, or just make sure that they all wear masks. It's like, have you been around children? Do you understand what hell you're
well, I know that I've used my better half's medical expertise to rip on the masks pretty good on the show. Now I'm going to use that same expertise to bring up some things that are actually good news. Truth be told, a vaccine for a virus like a coronavirus, generally the side effects if there are any, aren't like deadly. I mean, they can't look, anything that you can take can kill you, no matter what it is, even an aspirin. This depends on how your body can respond. But as a rule, the vast, vast majority, the worst that happens, like with the flu vaccine, is you might not feel great for a couple days. You might get achy, and because they're literally infecting you with the virus. That's what's happening.
Right.
And then your body develops the antibodies and fights it off, blah blah blah, and then you're immune. So yeah, it's not going to be tested thoroughly. But the truth of the matter is that it's based on the coronavirus isn't new. This particular version of it is. This is a brand new version.
Novel coronavirus.
Right, but coronaviruses are colds. Sometimes it's a flu virus. So they've got a general jump on things with this. So it's not like, we're going to grow a third eye or drop dead in 2 months or whatever. I mean, certainly it's possible because anybody can react poorly to anything. But the reality is that, yes, it won't be tested as thoroughly as others. But the truth of the matter is probably that the risk isn't going to be that great.
Right.
The worst thing that will happen is that you will just get COVID-19.
Right.
So if you're young, you'll be fine. If you're my age, well, fuck, good luck. So,
yeah, and I mean it's with polio, for example. When they were coming up with vaccines for polio, which they treated infinitely more aggressively than we are today treating coronavirus. They like you said, they expose you, essentially injecting you with a particular strain or a weakened strain of the same disease that creates the antibodies that will deflect or get rid of the actual hardcore shit that'll actually give you the paralysis and so forth. With the coronavirus, like you said, the worst that's going to happen is that you'll just get the coronavirus anyway. And I mean, yes, it could. Like the polio vaccine did. It did give some kids the paralysis, and it did. I think it was responsible for some deaths, but they just kept going because this was some real shit, and they took it very seriously as a society. God knows how many fucking rhesus monkeys died trying to get a vaccine for polio. For real. So one of the interesting, I just listened to a podcast about polio the other week. That's an
interesting sentence, by the way. I was listening to a podcast about polio.
Yeah, just for fun.
The strange times we live in, man.
And it was fascinating because it kind of exposed me a little bit to the vaccine making process and stuff. And so the original vaccine for polio was tested on just like a shitload of rhesus monkeys. And it was basically they tested polio using the cells of a rhesus monkey because I guess it was like kidney cells or something of a rhesus monkey, trying to like basically show that it was working. But they had to go and get these fucking monkeys and put them in a plane and ship them to Europe where they were working on this shit. So it was ungodly expensive because there's some asshole out in the jungles of Africa somewhere just like crates and crates and crates of rhesus monkeys. You can't tranquilize them fast enough to get them up to Europe so they can work on this shit. And so what they did was they ended up actually, so if you wanted the vaccine, you had to pay out the ass to get it because, 3 rhesus monkeys died to get your dose. But eventually they realized they could actually create the kidney cells in a lab using just a few rhesus monkeys. And so the cost went down exponentially.
I thought Jonas Salk, who created it, said that he didn't want money for it.
Well, right.
Was the story that I'd always heard.
This was like earlier in the process. Oh. I think Salk was actually before this, and I think essentially the rhesus monkey stuff used his findings.
Oh, okay.
Because essentially, I think because Salk, I think Salk's thing was the whole like he discovered that you could use the virus itself to cultivate the antibodies within a person. That was what his knowledge, I think, was what led to these. But I am no expert. I literally have the Wikipedia page up to try and check myself. But
I'm just picturing rhesus monkeys living in iron lungs because they got polio.
I don't think that's far off. I mean, honestly.
Or rhesus monkeys walking with canes and shit. Sorry. Well, if you can't have a little fun with the deadly virus, then what the fuck's the point, right?
And I don't know. I mean, but they've been for coronavirus. They've been doing human testing, and it's kind of a hush hush kind of thing, I imagine.
No, it's been. They did a test of. I want to say, I'm probably wrong about the number, but I want to say it was like 4,000 people in England back in April. I mean, this is what they do. But that's the only way you're going to find out if it works is through human trials. That's the only way you're going to know. And I think Zach's right with the phase 3 trials. They've had very good success with the first two.
We have
very good success.
We have some somewhat breaking news regarding the NFL. That by the time this post will be days old. But essentially the deadline, this is for Adam Schefter, the deadline for NFL players to opt out is this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So they
would play, and then if they do leave, they'll have penalties against them, I guess. Basically,
you can't do that to people.
Well, no, what it is you can opt out. They have rules based on how much money you can get when you opt out. If you opt out because you just don't want to play in a coronavirus season, you'll get $150,000. If you opt out because of like a pre-existing condition or something where you could, potentially be affected more by COVID, then you'd get $350,000 for the season. And yeah, I guess that is a good question to ask of if a guy changes his mind next week because there's an outbreak on his team or something, what happens? But
first off, we've got to ask the important question here, okay? We know what's going to happen. Which team is it going to be?
Okay, there's two. There are two favorites in this situation.
All right.
First is going to be the Washington football team.
Yeah, okay. They weren't on my list, but yeah, that's probably right.
Given that, one of their players had fucking cancer, had like a fucking brain tumor, and their doctor couldn't identify it, so it doesn't bode well.
I say Jacksonville or Tampa Bay.
Okay, see, here's the thing. Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, because of Florida, yeah. But you know what?
Well, Tampa because of Florida and because Tom Brady is, Donald Trump's favorite football player.
Tom Brady will cure anyone that is infected with his hands.
With his focus pills.
Do you not think that Gronk would not be a prime candidate for
a positive
test at some point?
Gronk's a prime candidate for 7 or 8 different things I can think of. Most of them would be cured with penicillin.
I was gonna say, Cleveland.
Yeah, that would have been my first pick too, just because.
Just the Browns.
Because of course. Yeah, just because it's the Browns, of course.
Well, the Lions, Matthew Stafford is already tested positive, and he's probably not coming back. So he's already.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So
he was placed on the COVID/injured list.
Yeah, I did see a report alert today that he did test positive, and I think his wife is sick. I think they just had a newborn baby just weeks ago.
Oh.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was like, yeah, I'm out. Gardner Minshew of the Jaguars, he's on the COVID list. I don't know.
Of course, look at Gardner Minshew. Is there any chance that he's not going to get it?
Fair, he's had COVID-19 for like 15 years probably, so it's just sort of in the news now. But those are the two big main quarterbacks that have been.
Look, I'm telling you, it's going to come out that through pure chance, the Tom Brady focus pills are the cure to COVID.
That would be hilarious. I'm sorry, that would be the funniest thing that ever fucking happened. It just would be. It would be the greatest thing. But, yeah, I don't know. It's and then you've got. We've talked about the NFL, but my God, college football. How many teams are there when you take all the?
There's already been more than a few teams that have already had a bunch of tests in college.
Well, yeah, when you take it from the 13th grade league teams all the way up to the top tier Alabama, there's 300-400 teams in there between Division III and Division I, right?
Well, the big conversation is whether or not they'll just postpone the season till spring. That's been floated around here for a few weeks now. Is that could be a possibility since there's been very little.
They've done that in all the high school leagues across the country, or not across the country, but if Texas and California do it, the rest of the high school football world is probably not far behind.
Oh, I don't know. You still got Ohio and Pennsylvania in there, and if there's one thing they love more than whatever it is they love. In Ohio and Pennsylvania, it's high school. It's weird. It's really, really weird.
Let me see if I can. There was a map that I saw just this last week that had. I guess it doesn't really matter, but there's plenty of high school leagues that have done it. The community colleges here in California have already said that they're moving their spring sports to then. Yeah, and now you have this thing with the Pac-12 players that put out that list of demands as they were of things that they want changed before they would come back to play this year. Mm-hmm. And apparently the coach at Washington State has already threatened to, remove scholarships for guys if they support this thing out loud, which a couple already have.
Well, I mean, that kind of, again, this ties to just college football as a whole. Like, it almost becomes this weird the conversation. Well, right, but the conversation about college football union, because the Northwestern players a few years ago were kind of one of the first to essentially have their own union. Correct? I mean, they had some sort of assemblage.
I think they took a shot at it. Yeah, I don't. Did they ever make it work? I know that they did a thing.
I don't think it lasted. If it did last, I think it recently was dismantled. But I mean, essentially, I don't think there's a victory to be had for any of these college students because I mean, it just varies too differently. But I mean, this virus could potentially open the doors for a lot more major colleges, particularly football factory colleges, to have their students or their student athletes say, we're not going to do this. We're not even getting paid. So fuck you. We're going to stay home and you're going to take away our scholarships. Like, you have fun with that. Go, I get it. And there's probably a majority of fans who, for say like Alabama or something, if half their roster decided to take the season off, they would just, part of their fan base would probably be saying like, well, good. We don't want you anyway. If you don't want to play that man football, then you
Roll
don't.
Tide!
Yeah, roll Tide.
Next man up. Next man up. Yeah.
That's essentially what's going to be. And that's already happening. That's already happening with the NFL opt-outs. A lot of really ugly side of fan bases have come out and been like, "Oh, he's not committed. He's not willing to subject. What a coward!" That kind of shit.
There's been 10 guys on the Patriots that have already out, including like 3 defensive starters, and you saw the Buffalo Bills. They had I don't remember if it was some players that got it or just some staff at the facility, but they sent all their rookies home to try and like see what it was going to be like if they had to do this during the season, if they had an outbreak and they had to just work out from home or whatever. I don't know. See, football is the one. Like baseball was bad enough, but football, there's like, what is it, 60 guys on a team in the NFL, and in college,
active rosters. Active roster in the NFL is 53 plus all the coaching staff, all the support staff,
all the support staff, all the equipment staff, and then in college again, it's like up to 100 players on a lot of these rosters. Like,
yep.
Of the sports we have, I don't understand how you even, besides just being stubborn about it and trying to push a way forward, I just don't know how you do a football season safely in that way. Because they're not going to do a bubble. It's just not going to happen. And I mean, there's just too many other variables on a football team.
You want to know how the NFL does it? Fuck you or the NFL. That's why. That's how they do it.
Yeah. Have you heard of a country called the United States of America? In a little document I call the U.S. Constitution, I don't see anything about coronavirus in there.
Yeah. Again, like as we've gone through all these, the bubble made sense for hockey and basketball because they were having a limited number of teams, and they could, they found ways to make it all work at one site. Great. Baseball had the bubble option, but it still was going to be a little tenuous even if they sent everybody to Phoenix. And football, I can't think of a way that you make a football bubble work. And the one suggestion I saw for the NFL was to have it based around of all teams Washington, because then you would be able to have games in Baltimore and DC, and you'd have to spread it out over a few days, obviously. But
that's not the worst idea, really.
Because you'd have FedEx Field for Washington. You'd have the Ravens Field. You could also throw in like Maryland, University of Maryland, something like that. Annapolis, the Navy Stadium. You could do that if you had it as like a region, because football just because play all those games.
You don't need to worry about the size of the stadium because you're not going to have fans anyway.
Yeah.
So
and supposedly the Raiders sent out an email today to their season ticket holders that they would not have fans in the stadium this year.
In Ohio, you're not allowed. Like the Browns, Buckeyes, Bengals, and whatever the other.
Didn't Ohio State say that they were going to try to hold like 20% capacity at the Horseshoe?
No, they're not allowed now. I shouldn't say not allowed because the governor can't just make a decree and it becomes a law, but it's strongly, strongly, strongly recommended against.
So my idea for a bubble in baseball is actually to find some fucking little league sandlot somewhere in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and just have all the teams play there.
Weren't they going to play a Field of Dreams game? Like,
yeah, they were.
Yeah.
That Cardinals fucked that up.
It was like Cardinals, White Sox, I think.
Yeah, no, that was still on.
Were they still planning on doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, they were still planning on doing it as far as I know.
I said it earlier, I'll say it again. There's no foolproof plan here, but if you're just smart and just do the right things, you're probably going to be pretty safe. But when you're doing stupid shit, stuff like this is going to happen. And having a game in Dyersville, Iowa for no fucking reason is a stupid thing. Because now you've taken your whole, infected, nasty-ass group of people and dropped them in the middle of Iowa. Peaceful little Iowa where nobody bothers anyone, I think. And it's just dumb. The whole thing's dumb.
So with the baseball bubble, I actually have a solution, and nobody listened to me when I brought it up. Not regarding this show, but I posed it to the league. They didn't return my calls. It's a completely brand new, a modern place, a modern stadium in a very unsuspecting place. Looks like it would take on a whole bunch of it could hold a bunch of people. I'm talking about, of course, Globe Life Field, Arlington, Texas. Perhaps it's the most beautiful.
Not only that, you could play there and no one would even suspect that baseball was going on inside. Right. That's how secretive that thing would be. Yeah.
Just take the logos off the side of it and take the big T off. And,
people are like, what's going on?
I can't wait for that Big Sam's. I can't wait for that Big Sam's Club to finally open.
Yeah.
That Bass Pro Shops is going to be a hell of a place.
Oh, my God.
There's some great pictures on Twitter here.
Oh,
yeah, let's beat up on the Rangers some more because that never gets old, and it doesn't.
I feel like it's kind of become strangely one of
oh my gosh, the
girlfriend killed me.
For those again that listening to our
I'm using this one as this is going to be the picture for the show this week. This is so awesome.
Andy's posted a couple pictures of the new Ranger Stadium, which we've railed on before. And if you haven't looked at it, go look at it. Have a good laugh. One is with the Costco warehouse logo on the side of it, which is perfect. And then the other, it's now opened up the top like a barbecue grill, and there's meat inside, which is also perfect.
What's worse? What's worse, the Costco Wholesale Ranger Stadium, the metallic butthole in Atlanta, or the toilet for the Warriors in San Francisco?
Oh,
wow, that's it. Worst I think is probably the metallic butthole. I don't know. You can have fun with that, but not like this kind of fun. I think that the Texas Stadium is this is just too much fun. It's just so many things you can do with it.
Yeah, I appreciate when these architects try to make these stadiums not look like stadiums.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, you probably should have just made this thing look like a stadium.
It'd look like a stadium a little bit, I think.
Yeah. The toilet.
So the toilet, it's kind of it's not terribly obvious that it's a toilet. Like the renderings had it as some sort of a weird off-white, which very much like a toilet bowl. The Falcons, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it looks more like a camera shutter lens than a
that's true.
Than a robotic anus. Like
it's a robotic sphincter. Like, come on, it opens and closes like come on.
But the Rangers one is, to me, that's the best because with the other two, at least they're going for some, like you said, Zach, some architectural, like innovative kind of stuff. With the Rangers, they literally just put up a pole barn and they just, it's just a pole barn. And they said, fuck it, put some steel on
put some aluminum siding up on there.
Corrugated metal, again, like it has no dignity but it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And one
For
point,
a team
whatever.
Called Texas, it's ideal.
Anyway,
there's got to be a way to make that grill real. There has to be. There's got to be a way where they can open the roof and it looks like they're grilling stuff.
I'm sure there is one.
That is.
Or you can just go down to the Costco and find a grill that looks exactly like that.
They should sell them if they don't. I mean, they should really do a licensed version of this.
Texas.
It's the same with that. I would advocate for the Arizona Cardinals to sell a toaster for their stadium. They're like, no, it looks like it's a cactus or a coiled up snake, and I'm like, no, that thing's an aluminum toaster.
There's
open up the roof and put some bread in the top.
There's a toaster that you can buy that will burn Wayne Gretzky's face onto your toast.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and it's called the greatest toaster.
Well, it is the greatest toaster.
I don't know. Have you guys at least have you enjoyed having the sports back?
I have. Like you, I've been binging on hockey. So I wish the Maple Leafs could get their heads out of their asses. That'd be nice. But aside from that,
it's one game. One game.
Well, no.
Zach needs to point out right away.
It's always just one game.
And the Leafs should be used to this because that's exactly what a Toronto crowd looks like in the first period. So.
Oh, fuck off.
Zach, with a nice swing back from last week's. Shot.
What is why is the guy from? It's not quite fair because he's not a Dodgers fan, but the Dodgers fans don't even show up to a fifth inning anyway. So why, to mock the Maple Leafs for having nobody there in the first period.
The problem.
I'm not a Dodger fan. I don't give a damn.
Right, that's what I mean. It's a shame you're not, because then that would be irrelevant.
Well, but that's the thing. Dodger fans know that, but traffic though. This is an actual problem that we have. That's why they show up early and they show up late and they leave early. It's a necessity. Because if you've ever been to the Dodger Stadium parking lot, it makes sense.
In Toronto, the problem essentially, so the problem in Toronto, right, is that the thing is that people are actually in the arena.
Oh yeah.
The problem is basically that because the Maple Leafs are such a hot ticket, it's basically an arena full of 1%ers.
Oh.
And as a result,
all the suits are getting their drinks.
All the suits are getting their drinks and mingling, and then it's like, oh, the game started. Oh, we'll get there in 10 minutes. And then, as the game goes on, the crowd settles in. But for the first 10 minutes of the first period, there's nobody there because everyone is still hobnobbing and getting drinks and whatnot.
Well, see, I was going to bail you out and say that Toronto's a big city. It has traffic too. But okay, we'll go with your explanation.
Toronto traffic actually really isn't a problem for I was going to call it the Air Canada Center, but it's not. The Scotiabank Arena.
And again,
it's actually in a really accessible location. So they're really actually. And again, that's the thing. It's the people are physically in the building. It's just that they're all being 1%ers for the first 10 minutes of the first period.
And again, I would tell anybody that's never been to a Dodger game, if you have to deal with that parking lot, it is hell. It is literal hell. I don't like the Dodgers for a myriad of reasons, but fix the damn parking lot because it takes forever to park, and it takes forever to walk from where you are to your seat if you know which hill to walk up to find the right entrance. And then when you get out, everybody's funneled through the same two choke points, and so it's impossible to get out.
You got to allow time to stop and beat the daylights out of a Giants fan too. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, what's more dangerous? That was Qualcomm worse during the Raiders-Chargers battles when a guy got stabbed in the parking lot?
Well, that's football.
I get my
you expect that
stabbing
shit with
knife and
football.
prepare to go to war.
Yeah, my Raiders stabbing
baseball.
knife.
Baseball's more peaceful.
I'd be really disappointed if the Vegas Raiders, whenever sports are back to normal in a year or two, if there's not some annual murders in the Las Vegas, just more out of tradition than anything,
right?
Because Buffalo now, their new thing is paralysis, because they'll leap off of cars on the tables, and they'll, there's going to be what are the Bills Mafia?
Yeah.
Like half of them will be like paraplegics in the next coming years, because they'll be like, yeah, where's my scar? I can't move my legs. But with Vegas, it's almost like, a proper gang, to where it's like, how many people have you stabbed? And they may not have that same fire and passion that the Oakland fans did.
Well, they have an advantage over the Oakland fans, though, because they can bury people out in the desert.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Just wait till somebody loses $100,000 on one of these Raiders games, and then gets his knees broken in the parking lot with a pipe.
Al Davis would be proud. All right.
Yeah.
That's Raiders football, baby. Just win, or if you can't do that, then dismember, I suppose.
Which, by the way, speaking of just shady football shit, going back to when the scandal for the sexual misconduct broke for the Washington insert name here's, there was a rumor at one point that it's like, oh, the scandal's going to involve Dan Snyder like paying to like fix games. It's like if the Washington NFL team is going to if they're trying to fix games, they're doing a shit job at it. Like, that was just one of the funniest things I heard. It's like, there's going to be like game fixing. It's like, but they always suck.
Yeah. I think you got to be good to be able to fix it. Either that, or you've got to be. I suppose you could lose on purpose.
It's like the Patriots, who dominated the league for 20 years. Okay, I can buy there's cheating there, because like, look at what they fucking did. But it's like it's like, oh yes, Washington's been caught cheating. It's like they've been. I'm not even mad. Like, they did a shit job at it.
Well, you know what? I think the Patriots got Cam Newton now. I wouldn't write them off just yet. Man, I'll tell you. If there's anybody out there that can conjure up the evil spirits and make them good one more time, it's Bill Belichick with Cam Newton. I think he can do it. So, unfortunately, we may not find that out this year.
Cam, I need you to do one thing for me. What's that? I need you to give up strawberries.
There you go.
No, I want to see the conversation with Belichick and Newton when he's like, hey, get a haircut.
Yeah.
Or, hey, go buy a two-piece or a regular Brooks Brothers-esque
fucking suit. Yeah.
Oh, come on. He can't do that. I mean, look at the way he dresses on the sidelines and all that.
Okay, fine. Cam, go into the team equipment lounge and buy a sweatsuit or grab a sweatsuit.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know.
Buy a Patriots tracksuit.
It should be interesting. It's too bad that the season's so screwed up, because there's some interesting storylines.
There actually is some interesting.
Yeah. And that's stuff. So I was going to even say that about like the hockey and the basketball. Like, it's been good hockey and basketball, and I would love to talk about it, but I also know that like it doesn't matter. And so like when we go to have like discussion about it, we lead with the Corona stuff, because why wouldn't we? I guess. And then you get to like talking about it, and you forget that the sports are still going so well. It's actually a thing that I did see was like at least on the NHL broadcast, and to an extent on the NBA broadcast, they're not really talking about the actual like bubble environments or the virus itself. They're sticking to the sport, if you will. Which, yeah, it is good in a way, because you want to escape from it, but it's also like, how can you not acknowledge all the weirdness about what you're looking at?
That's a better take than what I heard from MLB's commentators. I don't know if this has changed since then, but I was actually watching opening day between the Rays and Jays, and like there was a stretch there in the middle of the game where the TV crew were going. It's like they were bitching about the fact that it's only a 60-game season. They're like, there's no way you could tell who's a good baseball team over 162 games, but nobody's good. It's gonna be completely random. You're not gonna get an accurate representation of who the talented teams are. And I'm like,
good.
What the fuck is baseball like this? There's literally no other option.
Would you rather 60 baseball games or 0 baseball games?
Exactly.
Sir? Like,
I'm rooting for the Chaos World Series, like Baltimore versus, I don't know. Who else is terrible?
Well, let me pull up the standings right now just to see what it. Well,
Baltimore Padres, that'll work. Good uniforms.
Yeah, I'll take the uniform matchup for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, the Padres are doing well right now. I'm happy for them.
There you go. We're halfway home.
Look what happens, Padres. You go back to like your real color scheme, and good things happen.
The road look, the pinstripes on the sand color.
It's so good.
So good. I even like the brown alternate over the sand pinstripe pants.
Yeah.
It looks.
There's not a bad thing about that uniform set that I can think of.
Let's see.
It's just top to bottom really good.
If the season ended today with teams playing at most,
you know what, Michael
games.
Conforto, fuck you, man.
Let's see. We'd have the Yankees, the Orioles, the Twins, the White Sox, the Astros and A's, and then who would the other two teams be? I guess Cleveland and Detroit would be your full 8-team American League field.
All right.
Oh boy.
The NL gets completely fucked because like a third of the teams are infected.
Well, like this is what we're dealing with. So Atlanta is first in the NL East, right? They're 7-3. Do you want to take a guess who's second right now?
Miami.
Because they won 2 out of the 3 games they've played.
They're 2-1, and they got a .667 winning percentage.
And the shortstop who may have caused all of this, Miguel Rojas, is batting 700. I just stop right now and go, that's my batting title. I'm winning it. I'm breaking every record. I'm batting 700 for the season. I don't think he'll be able to keep that up.
Did you guys enjoy the Joe Kelly thing?
Yes, I enjoyed that immensely.
Yeah, because the one thing that I'm really kind of mad about in terms of losing the full season and having this all screwed up, we're not getting the full
fuck you Houston season.
Yeah.
We're like, if this had been the regular season, we started back in April, those jerk-offs would be getting nailed with balls for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it probably. Well, this is August now. I was going to say it'd probably still be going on, but I say through June. Yeah, they would have been getting knocked on their asses every time they stepped in the box. Yeah.
And so, like, when the Astros and Dodgers do meet last week, it's like, oh, yeah, Astros-Dodgers going to be killer. And it's like, well, no, because we're all in a different headspace than we were, several months ago.
And it's like an empty stadium.
Stadium. It's not the same thing.
First of all, I want to put it out there. I understand why there's empty stadiums. It's a good thing they're empty stadiums. I'm not proposing we put fans in stadiums. That being said, could you imagine how much less than say that Rangers Blue Jays game 5 would have been if Rogers Center was completely empty?
Oh, it would have been horrible.
Yeah,
absolutely horrible.
The fact that it sounded like the place was going to burn down added to the excitement.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but when Batista hit that home run, and that was like one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in baseball. That was so amazing.
When he hit that home run, the place exploded, and then he just said "fuck you" to the entire Rangers and just flipped his.
Yeah.
And to go back to
Rangers.
To go back to the Joe Kelly thing, though, Andy, what pisses me off to no end is Joe Kelly got suspended for 8 games.
Yeah.
He's still appealing as far as I know, right?
Which is bullshit.
Which in a regular season would have amounted to 22 games.
Yeah.
And the Astros, not a single player got a single thing for it. Because, well, they had to give them immunity so that they would get honest testimony. Bullshit.
Yeah.
If they don't want to testify honestly, punish them.
So Joe Kelly hurls a couple. He kind of had a really poor inning, but he ended up closing things out anyway. And after he struck out, he hit a guy. He just plunked a dude on purpose. He nearly hit another dude and worked out of the inning. But as he's leaving the mound, he said, "Nice swing, bitch." And he starts doing these faces, oh,
yeah. And, the faces were great.
And then
very good gif.
The other guy said, they told him, hey, this shit is fucking easy. It's fucking easy. And meanwhile, the Houston Astro guy says, throw your fastball, bitch. And it's just like, what? What kind of a response is that? Throw your fastball, bitch. oh yeah, I'll throw my fastball down the middle for you. Shut the fuck up. It's ended 8 games, and that's just like really light,
Banter.
I mean, it's just kind of. I mean, considering that there's no fans to really drown the nastiness, it's like that's pretty light.
This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see no fans, no crowd noise, picking up every fuck or shit like these guys.
MLB's reasoning for suspending him for 8 games, they said, well, he's had a history of intentionally throwing at guys, and it's like, yes, in theory he does, but again, the team he's making faces at also got nothing for literally cheating their way to a World Series title.
Uh-huh.
So
that whole I am really I'm sorry, I'm like stammering here. It baffles me to think about this, the whole thing with Houston and Manfred and the lack of punishment, and just
I still don't understand why they didn't punish. Like, what the fuck? What?
Nobody. They said that they needed the honest testimony, that they weren't going to get it unless they promised them that they wouldn't punish them.
So
and Astros fans are always quick to say, like, well, hey, we lost our manager and general manager and some draft picks, and it's like, yeah, and all the players that benefited from all that are still on the team.
And it's in no way comparable to, like, say, the death penalty given to TCU, or say like Penn State after the whole Sandusky thing. I mean, those punishments are kind of I wouldn't put them on the same plane, but actually, you know what? Fuck it, yeah, I would put it on the TCU plane. I'd say that's pretty much par for the course for that, because I mean, but I don't understand why Manfred. Because I mean, look at Adam Silver. Adam Silver comes into the NBA job. And I don't know how long he wasn't on the job very long before he had to deal with a really horrible racism deal.
Yeah, Sterling.
With Donald Sterling, and he comes out and he's like, "Guess
ban
what?
For life.
Ban for life. Get the fuck out." And now Rob Manfred's kind of like, "Well, it's just a trophy. It's a piece of metal, and whatever. Just leave me alone. I know I'm doing this."
We haven't seen, like, I think we talked about this at the time, that we haven't seen. Stripping them would have set a precedent that maybe you start doing this for a whole bunch of other crap. But, like, how do you not strip them? How do you not, like, give them any sort of permanent, lasting punishment?
I mean, the thing about it is, like, you could make like, there is always, like, the tricky argument. It's like, do you declare the Dodgers the winners of those?
No, you just leave it vacant.
Yeah, you just leave it vacant. You see, like, World Series vacant.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made either way for that. I'm trying to think of a way you could have punished them without vacating the title, because that's happened in college football thousands of times.
Suspend players.
Suspend the players, right?
Like Jose Altuve for a season or half the season or whatever you want to do. You have to do something to the players that perpetrated all this crap.
Yeah,
I don't care that the coaches were the ones that orchestrated it; they executed it.
Well, not only that, but the argument that we needed honest testimony. So that, I mean, again, I'm going to make a really overdone analogy here, but I'll use a better analogy. If I go out and rob a bank and they want to know who did it, I go, well, if you want honest testimony out of me, you've got to give me immunity.
That's not how that works, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, who did it? Well, I did. Well, now I've got immunity, so fuck you. I mean, that's basically what happened here.
And the other thing too, of course, is like beyond the, like, yes, at the time, like, we talked all through it, and it made sense then. But now you're going to get to a point where a guy throws around these guys and makes a boo-boo face at them, and you're going to suspend them for what the equivalent of 22 games would have been. Like, are you kidding?
I mean, okay, look.
Especially when it's against the team that we're talking about here. In a matchup of the World Series teams that we're talking about here.
I understand. I understand what I'm about to say might seem like, I don't know, in poor taste, but if I'm whoever's in charge of dishing out MLB discipline, and anyone on the Dodgers starts, nailing Astros players, I'm probably looking the other way and being like, no discipline. If there is that desire, it's like, well, doesn't matter. You need to do something. Then I'd be like suspended for a game.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
but that's also why I say that, like,
fine.
Or a fine. Yeah.
That's also why I say that we as baseball fans trying to, like, because clearly the league didn't want to dish out any sort of punishment for the Astros. They said as much. So instead of having the retribution come to them from other players or from other fan bases relentlessly booing their asses up and down the country every time they took to the field, they don't get to face any of that because the anger is dissipated, or there's, it's just a different headspace that everybody's in when it's playing a pandemic season, and there's no fans there to give them hell. So they're not seeing any sort of on-field repercussion for their lack of punishment. They're essentially, I think the thing that's most frustrating is that unless we somehow keep this up until next season when you can go the full thing and fans are in the buildings and whatever, this whole Astros incident is going to go largely unpunished.
It'll be forgotten, essentially.
Do you guys know who Gary Condit is?
Yes.
Okay, Mike knows who he is. Gary Condit is the one guy in America that was happy 9/11 happened because
you brought this guy up before. Yeah.
He was in the news every day about, I don't even remember what, wasn't he like banging his secretary or something, Mike? I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, and then she died.
And right, and then 9/11 happened and people completely forgot that guy. That was it. The Houston Astros are the Gary Condit of COVID-19. It's like everybody, this all happened. It's like, well, okay, they're off the hook. I mean, not completely, but yeah, they got away without having to deal with the fans, without having to deal with any of that stuff because of all this. So they're kind of like the Gary Condit of COVID, basically, in sports.
I would say that people, people have a short memory in terms of some stuff, especially this year of all years was the perfect year for some bad shit to happen in 2018, 2019, because it's all gone out the window. But I feel like the internet in particular has a thirst for revenge.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like there will be some repercussions eventually, maybe not formal ones, but the first time that fans are back and the Astros go to Philly or something like that, I think they're going to let it be known that once priorities have kind of shifted back to the norm, I would hope that there is some, even of the most informal fan punishment, but the formal punishment is where things get really bad. I mean, there's very few eras, if any, in baseball where something like this doesn't result in just a crippling punishment. I mean, it's not even like the Astros are some cornerstone ancient franchise of the league either. And I'm sorry if this is all recycled conversation from when this happened.
No.
But it's just baffling because I've been trying to learn more about Manfred over the last couple of weeks to try and sort out my feelings on him while this whole thing has been going on with pandemic and baseball. And essentially, what I've come to the understanding with Manfred is that he has handled things pretty poorly. The things he has handled well aren't things that are commissioner, he's handled things for getting kids to play baseball, youth baseball, that kind of stuff. Some fan outreach things, he's done well with those, but viewership is down, and the game is obviously really marred with how he's handled the whole still. But again, that's baseball.
Well, I think when we're talking about the league punishing cheaters and stuff like that, frame this another way, where what is the thing that has been universally at least pegged down by the league as being something that is cheating and that they punish? Steroids, right?
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about that either.
Well, right, but I'm saying, but now when you test positive for steroids, it's 50 games, 100 games, then for life, right, or the year, or something like that. I forget the numbers, but they have all that set up. Now, this is how I would argue that if there was an organization that was accused of everybody taking steroids, and they, including the players, and it was known that the players were getting the steroids from a coach or the manager or something like that, would they then say, hey, players, we won't give you any suspensions for taking these illegal performance-enhancing drugs if you tell us who the supplier is? And if that had gone down in that way, would there be a larger outcry? Be like, well, the players were still the ones injecting it. The players were still the ones benefiting from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Whereas like, oh, it's sign stealing. It's technology. It's games.
No, have you guys ever watched the videos of the garbage? Like, you heard how it worked?
Oh,
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
when you hear the
like
bang, it's unmistakable.
Mm-hmm. Sign stealing is one thing. I mean, if you can figure out a catcher sequence and you can go, okay, I know what the indicator is. I know what the next pitch is going to be. Okay, that's gamesmanship, and they can change that. And but when you've got a video camera and I don't know, a Navajo code talker, I guess, figuring out whatever the fuck's going on, come on, that's just straight up cheating. And then banging a garbage can, which the thing that bothers me the most
Navajo
about all of this.
code talker, that's like some fucking, that's a deep.
You like that?
That's good.
Yeah, just
Look! If a team like fucking brings in a Navajo code talker, like fucking,
they're fucking serious, man.
Fucking, you know what?
You start seeing smoke signals coming out of the dugout.
Like fucking,
you know that something's going wrong.
Fucking give it to them, right? You went the extra mile, man. You congratulate guys. You earned that World Series. You.
Yeah, straight.
Well, one of my favorite. Favorite quotes that came out of like the pregame stuff to all that Dodgers Astros thing. I forget who they asked. I think it was Carlos Correa. Said that despite the fact that they were sign stealing or whatever, they couldn't use it in the Dodgers series because the Dodgers were changing up their signs too well and hiding them. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but you were still trying, right? You were still doing what you were doing. It just wasn't working, is what you're saying. So we should just forgive you for winning the World Series because, hey, our thing that we were cheating with all year didn't work when we got to the World Series.
I don't buy that bullshit for a second anyway, because I know Clayton Kershaw's had his issues in the postseason, but that dude doesn't give up back-to-back rockets that damn near went out of the stadium.
And I fucking feel for the guy like that when he's like everything they've ever said about me in the postseason is true. It's like, dude, like, damn, man, like. Guys broke it. Like, it's like, who fucking knows if that had been a fair series? You could have won a World Series by now.
Look, I've watched I don't know how much baseball in my life, and I can tell you that a guy that good to go out there, even in a relief appearance like that, and get rocked the way he did, you just don't see that. You just don't. I mean, and I forget I was back-to-back home runs they hit off him or something. And they were both like shots. I mean, they were like they knew it was coming type stuff. Now maybe I'm wrong about that, but you know what? With the Astros, we'll never be able to say for sure. I don't give a fuck what Carlos Correa says. You know what? When you can do that to Clayton Kershaw, that's something right. And I'm not saying that the guy doesn't give up runs, he doesn't have his issues in the postseason, but as far as I remember, it seems like the last time that baseball was not like this was like 100 years ago. But best I can remember, he would lose like 4-3, or he wouldn't be dominant like one run a game, Clayton Kershaw. But he wasn't terrible. He was just not dominant. And him to go out there and just get knocked around the park like that, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. They knew what he was throwing. Come on, they had to. But you know what the worst. Hold on, Andy, really quick. The worst part about all of this is that I have a really cool orange Astros throwback hat that I can't ever wear again.
Oh yeah, no.
I can't do it. No way. Fuck them forever.
I was going to say, speaking of shots, particularly to the face, I wanted to get your input on the Mike Tyson comeback. In September, he's going to face Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's going to be in California in September sometime. Roy Jones Jr., I think, is in his late 40s, and Tyson is mid-50s.
Roy Jones isn't a heavyweight, right?
I don't know.
He's like a middleweight or something. If it's like Roy Jones at his normal size versus Tyson's normal size, Tyson's going to break him in half. It's going to be terrible.
Mike Tyson's also old.
I mean, he's not geriatric. I mean, the guy's old.
He's younger than I am.
If you've seen the TV ads the last couple of days, Mike Tyson is apparently fighting a shark for Shark Week this year. So,
well, that means he's the greatest boxer ever, right? No, yeah. I don't know much about boxing, but isn't Roy Jones Jr. like one of those, like he's more of a boxer where Tyson just goes out and hits you so hard that you wake up a week later? I just don't know how that's going to work.
Well, the last fight Tyson did was in 2005, which is just fucking crazy. He's been retired for like 15 years. But I mean, my question is, with boxing, you have, usually you have the crowd is such a big part of boxing. So you're going to have, because boxing, the crowd, sometimes it's a who's who, especially these big boxing events or where you have like the event is almost a red carpet of celebrities that show up to watch these boxing matches. And in this case,
douchebags. Sorry, go ahead.
And you're going to get, nobody. There'll be a ref, and you'll just hear the thok, the hitting, the grunts.
Yeah.
And then, one and will knock out another, and that'll be quiet. And
it's what UFC's been doing on Fight Island, right?
Fight Island, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Dana White bought an island and set up an octagon on it.
Yeah.
It'll be strange, sure. It'll be just like watching like a street fight video on YouTube or something like that, right?
Probably, yeah.
Well, those are fun. I mean, because usually half the time the people really can't fight, so it just turns into some weird shit. And that would be great if that's what Tyson and Jones did.
Yeah.
Remember Kimbo Slice?
Anyway, we got anything else, boys? We're at like 90 minutes on the dot here, so let's.
We got one more thing. We got one more thing. I can't believe none of you guys brought this up. The Rock has bought the XFL.
Oh yes,
I saw it. We'll save that for next week because that's a deep conversation we need to get into.
A whole $15 million.
Yeah.
He'll make that like in the first 20 minutes of his next movie. Anyway, well, yeah. Well, I'm kind of glad about that. Maybe they'll bring it back.
Who the fuck
same
knows?
Teams still? Are the same teams and everything? You bought it like lock, stock, and barrel, right?
He bought everything. So yeah.
He owns it all. I don't know to what extent they'll actually make it work, but apparently they're going to make it work. So he owns the shit. I'm part of me really hopes that they ended up selling it back to Vince McMahon just as some sort of weird wrestling plot twist that Vince McMahon is like using.
The Rock has announced that he bought the XFL for a higher power, and then at the press conference, the guy comes out in the cloak.
I won't maybe somebody like me won't know because I won't pay attention. But if the Rock shows up on Monday Night Raw at some point and says like, Vince, I stole the XFL from you or something.
Oh yeah, it's on at that point.
That would be amazing.
Well, we can chew on that one next week, and potentially the Lounge Report will be next week, recording next week. We'll see.
Just idea.
We first off, the number is 386-385-8139, and we are kicking around options. We may take a shot at doing this thing live, so we'll keep you posted on that as well. If we can work out the technological side of it, we will do it.
See.
I guess that's it. Oh, yeah. And Yeoman's Work by Andy.
Pardon?
Yeah, Greg's internet is slowly melting. But
hold on.
I sensed you were complimenting me somehow. I don't.
Yes, go ahead. Take it from there.
No, all I did was I clicked a few things and logged into a few places and updated some stuff. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, you no longer have to search for the entire, Tumblr URL.
Yeah.
Just go to the podcast app on your iPhone and search for Basically a Sports Show. We're on Spotify now. You can follow our podcast on there. And you actually, since I've been gone for the last 5 years, this is actually what I've been doing. It took that long to get the show on Spotify. But we
got no Spotify money for this either, by the way.
Zero, yeah. So there's nothing's being pumped here or anything. But wherever you get your
holding out for that Tostitos money. So
exactly, goddamn Tostitos, get on it. But yeah, we're available pretty much wherever under the proper name. So if you look us up, go ahead and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll be up under the proper name.
One last thing.
Shiny new logo too.
Yeah, to close the show off on. Vince McMahon versus The Rock for control of the I WrestleMania. Winston Moss is the special referee.
I'm all over that.
That's fucking. And the whole thing is going to be building up to like who Winston Moss is going to favor, but it's just shots of him like relaxing on a chair. Like he's not going to try. All right.
Am I okay now, or should I just shut up?
You're good.
You're good.
Okay, well, on that, we'll wrap it up, folks. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports, as Andy pointed out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, and anywhere fine podcasting is sold. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, everybody.
Latest.
So long.
Later.